Hello. So today is actually February the 24th, 2019, and I'm still getting lots of questions. So I was sent a bit of information yesterday, and I read through it and I liked it, and I wanted to talk about it today. I was going to talk about paperwork and change 4D, but instead I kept 4D and I'm going to go ahead and move past it. And the reason is because I made a video on this very subject I want to talk about, and it was 28 minutes long. So I wanted to shorten it up and try this again. Okay, so naturalization, a process that they talk about in the federal code. Um, I want to talk about a story. I want to start with a story, and the story is fairly simple. It's about moving. So what happens? A man is born on the soil, and of course, the birth certificate has two dates on it. One is the birthday, and one is the registration date. And the maxim of law says first in time is first in line. So a man's birthright is before the birth registration. And I've explained this on other videos. That being said, moving on, I want to talk about this naturalization thing and the paperwork that people do. So we know that there's different paperwork, and that paperwork that people do, like Anna's paperwork, is private. It's actually private paperwork that you take, and if you record it at the courthouse, nothing happens to it. It just sits there and nothing happens to it. But what it does is it makes a paper trail, okay, for other people to be able to recognize. But unless you actually use that in court for some reason, for example, it's not going to matter a whole lot to anyone except you. It's your paperwork. So you're recording something, and it's your responsibility. It's your duty to yourself and to your family. Uh, at the same time, there's General Assembly paperwork. So the General Assembly paperwork is for the Assembly. And I've already explained this. But what I want to talk about is why it's important. So why would this paperwork be important? Um, we talked about previously the Johnson's Dictionary, 1785. They created the word states, which is the word nobility. That word nobility means that the Constitution of 1787, whenever they created the Constitution for the United States of America, it actually says this is the Constitution for the United Nobility. So you have a lot of people who were rogue actors, who were still partial to Great Britain, who wanted to still be connected to Great Britain. And so they wrote up a constitution and wrote in it the United Nobility. It doesn't say the word nobility, but if you look it up in the dictionary, that's exactly what it means. You can look that up in Webster's 1828. You can look it up in the Johnson's. You can look it up in a lot of different places. It will say states, plural, is nobility. So with that being said, um, and I want to talk about naturalization. The federal government talks about a process, and this is under 8 U.S. Code 1481, the loss of nationality by a native-born or naturalized citizen, voluntary action, burden of proof, presumptions, U.S. Code, U.S. law, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so it says here, a person who is a national of the United States. So that word states, remember, is defined as nobility. So this is a person who is a national of the United Nobility. Well, that would be a U.S. citizen. Okay, so you have a U.S. citizen who is uh, a part of the United States, which is the municipal corporation of the District of Columbia. So, a story that I wanted to talk about was a man, let's say myself, I want to move out of a U.S. citizen to become a Pennsylvanian. So I need to move out of the District of Columbia into Pennsylvania. And there's a process involved. So there's a process of paperwork that takes place. It's not automatic. People want to think, well, I was born, therefore first in time is first in line. That's true. That's absolutely true. And when you get in court, you can go ahead and talk about that. But how about the process that happens before you get in court? How about if you can't speak up for yourself? How about if they just throw you in jail? Is there some kind of backup that you have in place that will help you out? Um, so I'm moving from the District of Columbia, and the presumption that I am a U.S. citizen. That presumption was created through the birth certificate. Whenever they conned my mother into making me, or my name, because it's not actually me, it's my name. So they used my name and they created a corporation which is a U.S. citizen through a trust. Whenever that's a mouthful. Whenever that happened, I have to move from the District of Columbia back to the soil of Pennsylvania. So what happens first? I buy a house in Pennsylvania. I come up here, I find myself some land, some nice property, house, and I make the purchase. So this is a process. And then I have to bring my house, all the contents, or I have to sell the house. So we have to sell the old stuff. We have to get rid of what they taught us in high school. We have to get rid of what they taught us in college. We have to let be all those things that they wanted us to be. We have to let that behind. We were lied to, lied to, lied to. So many things that we were told that weren't true. So they created this U.S. citizen, and they teach us to be a U.S. citizen, which is a slave. It's a servant to the Crown of England. Okay, so we want to give up our U.S. citizenship so we're no longer a slave and move to the jurisdiction of the soil in Pennsylvania or any of the other states, wherever you might live. And so I have to buy a new house and sell the old stuff and get rid of all the old stuff. So I'm bringing with me, the family, maybe kids, the dog, the furniture, my car, the old trailer in the backyard. So we're moving this stuff onto the soil of Pennsylvania so that it's no longer domiciled in the District of Columbia. So you got to move it out of the District of Columbia onto the soil of Pennsylvania. All right, so this act that I'm talking about, this code, which is a federal code, remember all federal codes belong to the federal government. So it's a corporation. And for example, the Constitution belongs to the corporation because it's their contract. It's not my contract. It's their contract. So the Constitution belongs to them. All of their codes belong to them. The income tax, the tobacco, alcohol, firearms, and this one, U.S. 8, 1481, loss of nationality by native born or naturalized citizen. So I don't want to create another 28-minute video. I'm already at almost 10 minutes, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. In this part, it says, a person who is a national of the United States, whether by birth or naturalization, shall lose his nationality by voluntarily performing any of the following acts with the intention of relinquishing United States nationality, which is exactly what I want to do. I want to get rid of the presumption that I am a U.S. citizen. I don't need that. I don't want to be a U.S. citizen, so I have to get rid of that. I have to relinquish that presumption that they made through the birth certificate. So how do I do that? Well, it says right here. It tells us there are 7 things here that's going to tell us how to do. So, number 1, obtaining naturalization in a foreign state. Pennsylvania is foreign to the District of Columbia. So that municipal corporation is foreign to Pennsylvania. So I am actually moving from one foreign place to another. So as a U.S. citizen, I am moving to a foreign nation. That nation is Pennsylvania. So I obtain, by obtaining naturalization in a foreign state upon his application or upon the application, etc., attained at the age of 18 years. So when you turn 18, you're allowed to do this. How do you do this? Well, my application is the deed of reconveyance. So I create this deed of reconveyance and I record it on the soil in Pennsylvania. Now I've moved my name onto the soil of Pennsylvania, number 1. Number 2, it says taking an oath or affirmation or other formal declaration or allegiance to the foreign state. So how does that happen? Well, that's real simple. The General Assembly has their own paperwork, and I've discussed this on other videos. So the General Assembly has their own paperwork, and one of the pieces of paper is called a Declaration of Allegiance. So you change your allegiance from the District of Columbia to Pennsylvania. And you're no longer a U.S. citizen, you become a Pennsylvanian. And you do that through the General Assembly paperwork. Okay, so that's another way. Number 3, it says you enter or serve in a foreign state armed forces. Okay, well, how would you do that? Well, you could join the militia in Pennsylvania. That's a foreign state. Number 4, I'm going through this rather quickly, but accepting, serving, or performing duties or office or post or employment of a foreign government or state. You take employment or an oath or affirmation or declaration of allegiance to another state. So by being in the General Assembly, for myself, for example, I hold a position in the General Assembly as a moderator, or you have a delegate, or you have a secretary, you have IT people, you have a sergeant at arms or a bailiff, you have different positions in the General Assembly. When you hold one of those positions, you're actually holding a position in a foreign state compared to the District of Columbia. So you cannot be a U.S. citizen and a Pennsylvanian, because in Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to be on the soil of Pennsylvania and a citizen of a foreign state. You're not allowed to do that. You can only be in one. Now, the U.S. citizen can do that, but a Pennsylvania cannot do that. Number 5, making a formal renunciation of nationality before a diplomat or consular officer. This is a consular officer of the United States or foreign state. So, according to the Secretary of State. All right, so what's going on? All right, so the Secretary of State deals with everything internationally in a state. So, this might be you have a diplomatic passport, which makes you, which moves you into a different jurisdiction. You might have a name change. A name change will do that. You might have something that you have notarized. A seal of a notary is under the Secretary of State. So when you have your notarized declaration of reconveyance, your deed of reconveyance or your act of expatriation, those things are notarized. Ta-da! That's under the Secretary of State. So you are moving your domicile from the District of Columbia to another state or nation, like Pennsylvania or Georgia or West Virginia or wherever you might be going. All right, so number 6, it says making in the United States a formal written renunciation of nationality. Okay, before the Attorney General. Okay, so you have everything since the Civil War has been under military control because I've explained this. We are under a state of emergency. That state of emergency is under the military. So the president is in charge of the military. And you have an attorney general. You have a postmaster general. You have a governor who is the general of the National Guard in Pennsylvania. So you have military people in each state. And those military people are who you are addressing. So who might address a military person? A veteran. So somebody who gets out of the service, they are a veteran, and they want to domicile themselves in Pennsylvania. They want to move their names back to the soil of Pennsylvania instead of being a U.S. citizen. So you write the letter that I've talked about on other videos. You write that letter to your commanding officer. You take your DD 214, you make copies of it, and you also send a copy to the Attorney General. So you can send a copy to the Attorney General, and that's one way of then you are moving your name back to the soil. Okay, so number 7, real quickly. Committing an act of treason, etc., etc., etc. Part A. Part B says, whenever the loss of United States nationality is put to issue under any actual proceeding commenced on or after September 26, 1961, going down, it says, any person who commits or performs or who has performed or performed any act of expatriation voluntarily. So you volunteer to expatriate. So, ta-da! Okay, so you have your act of expatriation. So these are 7 ways that a person who is a U.S. citizen moves themselves out of being a U.S. citizen back onto the soil. That's why we talk about doing paperwork, because it says here you need to do that in a written format. So verbally talking about becoming something, it's not the same as putting it in writing. There are a lot of different formats that can take place and do take place, but until the General Assemblies are actually up and running the way they need to be, your personal private paperwork does matter. So at any rate, I hope this has been interesting. I hope it's been helpful. And I don't want to go too long, so go to pennsylvaniaassembly.org. If you're not a part of your state General Assembly, join or participate in your General Assembly. And if you go to pennsylvaniaassembly.org, use the contact page, leave your phone number, leave your county, leave your state, and I will do my best to get you in contact with the people from your state in your General Assembly. All right. So thanks. I hope, like I said, I hope it helps, and have a wonderful day.